Yo, what is up guys? This is Rise and welcome to a video I am so excited for, where I went on a record-breaking 19-game winning streak in the Go Battle League. Record-breaking for me in the sense it was my best winning streak of the season, and I think it's my best GPL winning streak if you don't include like the very beginning of the season when you're battling against trainers that maybe aren't quite as experienced in the lower ranks. We went from the 3200s all the way to 3467 in this 19-game winning streak, and I have to give credit to where this team came from, by the way. So credit to one of HomeslicHenry's mods, Firestar73, who originally suggested this team to HomeslicHenry, and then HomeslicHenry ran it to hit legend, and then K4 McMaster in my Twitch chat suggested I run this team. I gave it a shot, and it was busted. This is going to be like a 50-minute video, so sit, grab, I'm misspeaking, sit back, grab a snack, and enjoy as we get into these battles. Man, I was also thinking about, in this winning streak, that I wonder if anyone has gone on a winning streak this long at like this high of an elo. I don't know if this is some sort of a record, like 3200 plus. Let me know if anyone you have watched on Twitch, or maybe someone watching, if like over 3000 you've seen anyone go on a winning streak this long, because this was just a culmination of the team being busted and a lot of things going right. So you see in this first game, we had the terrible lead Medicham into Trevenant, but with our Hyper Beam Diggersby, we're actually going to be able to force a shield here or take switch. Our opponent gives us the shield, so we have the shield advantage, and that's really good for us. And we're just kind of hoping that there's no one counter actually KOs, which is really nice. Hoping there's no hard answer to Noctowl, and it's a Drapion. And up a shield. Noctowl should be pretty good here. We just can't afford to take too much damage to the point where we get into Seed Bomb range, because the Trevenant does have some energy built up. And kind of the thought process behind this team, I would think, is Medicham is going to beat a lot of the ice and the steel types. Wall Rain is your good Wall Rain answer. Diggersby. HomeslicHenry apparently ran it with Earthquake, and I'll get into that maybe in between battles, some of the nuances, but here we are. We have to shield the crunch, and they make a nice combo play. We are debuffed, but I don't think Seed Bomb's going to be enough to take us out, and luckily we survive, even debuffed with Big Daddy Noctowl. Put him into a couple counter range, and Medicham going to close it out. So a nice win there to start things off, and this was the beginning of what would be a legendary run. So yeah, a lot of people were asking why Hyper Beam over Earthquake during the stream. I figured Hyper Beam is just kind of fun, changes it up a little bit, and it's also, it has that surprise element. So Earthquake is going to help you in those matchups that Diggersby is going to be like more dominant. So like G-Fisk, Registeel, Bastiodon, you kind of need Earthquake in those matchups for it to be comfortable for Diggersby. Hyper Beam, I feel like, is better as a safe swap, because that way if you lose lead and you swap it in, and they're not going to like bring a steel type right into your Diggersby. They're not going to bring like a Sableye into your Diggersby. So they're probably going to bring a flyer, and Hyper Beam is going to help you against most of the flyers. So that's why I kind of liked Hyper Beam in this potential comp. I think Earthquake is probably like, I don't know, better in most scenarios. But this Hyper Beam, man, does so much damage. Let's see if the Obstagoon decides to shield or not. They don't. Lots of damage. We're going to bring in our Medicham and just hope they don't have some sort of core breaker in the back, but I mean, Medicham and Noctowl seem to cover each other's weaknesses really well. I can't think of too many things off the top of my head that are going to beat both Medi and Noctowl. Nidoqueen is so OP, it can definitely put in work against both, but we're just going to go double Ice Punch here. This is where having Ice Punch is really nice, because you don't have to risk baiting a power-up punch. You can just go for a super effective move that's still fairly cheap energy. Gonna eat the first Poison Fang. Still chunks, man. Another Poison Fang coming through. At this point, I should probably be shielding, but for some reason I'm not. And I go for the Shadow Ball because Shadow Ball does more raw damage than Sky Attack, even though I believe Sky Attack's more efficient from a Noctowl. That same type of attack bonus. The Obstagoon does counter us down, a little bit scary, but we still have both of our shields. The counter that went through there will KO. And now we just need to hope we can counter this down first. And fairly close in the end. Probably should have just shielded my Noctowl on that second Poison Fang, and it wouldn't have been so close. But a nice win there in game number 2. And it's on to the next one. On to the next one. I used to say that a lot more often, and people would get mad because I would do it too often. All right. So every time you see a Victory Bell, you have to just assume there's a Bastiodon in back. And Bastiodon is going to be tough for my back line, right? Because I'm not running Earthquake. And my opponent makes a really nice catch here. Swaps in the Lickitung. I'm predicting it's probably a Bastiodon, so I'm going to come in with my Noctowl here. Noctowl does have a favorable matchup here against Lickitung because you're going to double resist the lick damage, while Lickitung is taking neutral damage from these Sky attacks, or Wing attacks, excuse me. So my Wing attacks are adding up, and the licks are not doing much at all. They're doing 1 damage each lick versus my Wing attacks, I don't know, we're probably doing like 3 damage, something like that. Just a guess. Gonna overfarm a little bit. I'm actually willing to take... Oh, I'm not. I'm gonna shield to preserve some health here. Interesting. Gonna double up, throw the Sky attack. This way I have some health for the... I swap in here. And this is scary. I have to respect the Leaf Blade. It would do considerable damage. Gonna throw my Fire Punch. The opponent kind of has the shield, right? But it was at this point I realized, oh no, I'm screwed. I don't have Earthquake. So this game is over. The opponent has this. Land the Fire Punch, take out Vic. But all I can do is just spam Fire Punches, but the opponent top lefts because they're scared of the Earthquake. They know we have the Shadow Ball loaded. And we are granted a win con. Rise in the comments. I see you, Carson and Bradley. Oh, Rise. This win streak doesn't even count. You had an opponent top left when they had the game. I don't care. We found the win con. Haters can hate all they want. It's a win in my book. The journal says it's a win. It's a win. And that was our sign. That was our sign that this day in the Go Battle League, luck was on our side. And we are going to go for the Ice Punch. And you may notice, you IV connoisseurs, Rise, you don't even have an XL Medicham? What is wrong with you? A 15, 15, 14? So, I do have an XL Medicham. And it wasn't until we were about, I think, 15 wins in a row that someone in chat asked, hey, Rise, what are the IVs on your Medicham? And I checked, and I realized I was using my non-XL Medicham this whole time, my pre-XL Medicham. And you know what? We just kept on using it because we're like, we're winning. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, we just kept going with the flow. So now we were willing to just let our Medicham get farmed down by the Araquanid because we needed switch advantage here in the back. And without Earthquake, this matchup is much less comfortable for Diggersby. However, Diggersby is so thick, and we do have a very high rank XL Diggersby. So he actually tanks 2 Earthquakes, which is pretty wild. Now I have to be aware of the snipe from the Araquanid. So I got to be on my toes here. And check this out. I actually bank and we simul swap. And I catch what's most likely a bubble beam. And this is obviously a very comfortable situation for Noctowl. Araquanid is so dang bulky that it can actually make this a little uncomfortable for anything. But Noctowl going to be able to farm down. G-Fisk within Shadow Ball range. And we had the Fire Punch bank, so opponent realizes it is over. And they top left. So some nice wins to start. Like, not necessarily like hard counter games, maybe like 1 or 2, but some tough leads we're able to pull back. A9, fairly tough lead for this team, so we're gonna swap in our Diggersby. Gonna get off this Fire Punch here. Fire Punch is a pretty soft move, so non-stab. A9 knows they can tank it pretty easily. Debating whether I want a shield or not. I do decide to commit a shield on the Wither Ball because my opponent didn't swap something in right away, so it tells me they probably don't have a hard answer. And look at this. They swap in a Lickitung. Lickitung is going to struggle a bit against Diggersby. Once again, Lick's double resisted against that normal typing. And I know even if this is a Power Whip, I can survive it, so I'm willing to let this go. And my opponent decided to bait with Body Slam, which is really nice for me. Because now if they Power Whipped, they probably could have licked down. But now they're going to have to throw another move. I get the shield back with the Hyper Beam. Figured it was the safer play. Either get the shield or knock out the Licky. Power Whip will take me out. I actually decide to come in with Noctowl. Because I'm thinking, you know, if he has a Ninetales lead, he might have like a fighter in back. And that way, because Ninetales is weak to steel, right? So Ninetales lead might be a fighter in back, and then he'd be forced to come in with the Ninetales against my Noctowl. And then Medi would avoid it. But it's actually a Diggersby, so that's his steel counter, his own Diggersby. And this is really a dominant matchup for Noctowl. All he can do is throw these measly little fire punches at me. Our Diggersby is a beast, but we're able to make fun of the opposing Diggersby in this situation. Because he is walled by Mr. Noctowl. And remember, our Medicham is still fully healthy, and the Ninetales has taken a Fire Punch worth of damage. So these counters, man, they're hitting for neutral. Counter is such a good fast move. This is not very comfortable at this point with the health disadvantage for A9. And we get the full counter down. We come out with an Ice Punch. And we win CMP here. And this will knock out the Diggersby from Red Health. G to the G, overcoming a slightly tough lead. They just didn't have an answer for our Diggersby safe swap. They did not have an answer for the Diggersby safe swap, and that is a 5-0 to start off this winning streak. 5 in a row. Little Kara Blast reward. Let's see what our Elo rises up to. 33-11. Oh my gosh, Rise! You're tripping out, bro. Take a deep breath. Calm down. Rise is nervous casting because he's expecting this video to hopefully get a lot of views. So all you new people watching, fingers crossed. Rise is all nervous. They safe swapped the Nidoqueen. Eventually, I'll start speaking correctly. They swap the Nidoqueen. I decide to get a shield advantage first and then go into my Diggersby. Which, you know, maybe the right play, maybe the wrong play. I decided to go for the Hyper Beam. I figure since they've already committed a shield, maybe they're unlikely to commit another here. But they do shield. They put me in a tricky situation. If I get baited here, this becomes pretty sus. But we're able to successfully shield the Earth Power. I had kind of lost track of Nidoqueen's energy, but I was hoping I could Fire Punch and Mudshot down before an Earth Power. So I'm hoping this is just a Fang here. And it is just a Fang. And we do have enough health where we should be able to get to a Hyper Beam on the Umbreon. This is really helpful because remember, we don't have a fighting charge move on our Medicham. So it's not like a super dominant matchup for Medicham. Umbreon can actually flip that matchup up energy. I tried to catch a potential play rough there. I was unsuccessful. I'm going to let it go. And it is a play rough that comes in. So this, as you must be running Hydro Pump, play rough. You know what's funny? I always say when I battle, the Azu always has the move that it needs. But this proves me wrong. This is a situation where Ice Beam would be more useful. And the Azu doesn't have the move that it needs. So, gotta remember those times too. It's like when you think you're always getting hard countered, sometimes things work out in your favor as well. Noctowl flapping away. Locked in. And I know the Umbreon, even let's say it's maxed out on energy, it's so low. If it just threw back-to-back foul plays, that's 45 energy each. And I can fully counter down now because he has to be at least 3 away. And I can get off this Psychic against Mr. or Mrs. Azumarill. Shiny, by the way. Shiny best buddy. Very cool. And we pulled that one out. Pretty favorable lead, but just kind of had to manage those back, because both of those back Pokemon we didn't have an obvious answer for, right? So we just had to kind of manage those correctly. Tapu Fini, so a bit of a core breaker lead for us. I believe Medicham can win this if they let the Psychic go through. So I'm going to go for the Psychic. Water Guns chunking away. Counters are doing almost as much as the Water Guns. I decide to shield. It is a Moonblast. That's really good for us. That's a lot of energy. Opponent goes for the catch. I swap in Diggersby, which I don't know if this is the right call. Probably not, because since I don't have Earthquake, this is not as comfortable of a matchup for Mr. Diggersby. The reason I did this in my head, I think, was because I know there's a Tapu. I don't want my Diggersby lined up against the Tapu later on. So I decided to just put it in here. But this is not the most comfortable matchup, as you see. Going for the Fire Punch. I'm going to overfarm here, knowing I can survive a foul play. I was expecting the swap, but I was just a second too slow. If you pause the video there a few seconds ago, you see me tapping on the Medi, expecting the swap, but the Water Guns just registered too quickly. Gonna take the Surf here on Knock. What's in back? We're up a shield. There's no way Sableye comes in. And it's a Marowak. And this is a very dominant matchup for our Noctowl. So we're going for the Shadow Ball here. No need to bait, in my opinion. I figure I let this first one go in case he gets like a Shadow Bone debuff. And then I'm just going to overfarm as much as possible. Swap in the Medi. Just use the Medi as a shield here, essentially. And then I farm down. I have the Shadow Ball loaded. And Marowak knows it. So we see a top left from the opponent. And the streak continues. Here we go. By the way, if you noticed, I got a new t-shirt. I bought this online. It's like a Hawaiian-themed Gengar shirt. I think it's kind of cool looking. Let me know if you like it in the comments. Rise out here fishing for compliments. Medi versus Nock. So they swapped Medi. I swapped Nock. This is not the most comfortable matchup for Nock, as you see, because I do take neutral from these counters, and now they're ramped up. So their counters are essentially doing as much as my wing attacks, probably more than my wing attacks, even though my wing attacks are super effective. I am able to call the power-up punch. I get to a Sky Attack here. I'm really hoping he can't farm all the way down from here. This would be kind of tricky for me. But he gets the full farm down. And I'm like, okay. I know my Medi is useful against his lead Mon, in which my Diggersby isn't as useful. So what I decided to do here is just completely absorb all this energy with my Diggersby and hope my Medicham can sweep in the back up 2 shields. Because I'm thinking, like, even if it's a Trevenant in the back, Medi with Ice Punch up 2 shields can win that matchup. So I just take all this energy against the Medi. They probably would have been better off going for a Psychic or maybe like double Psychic there, since they were already ramped up a couple times. I throw the Fire Punch. I get a 1 counter head start. For some reason, he got 2 counters of damage on me. And it's a Nidoqueen. And I'm thinking I can just throw a Psychic here because even if my opponent caught on the Walrein, like I would want to throw a Psychic at the Walrein anyway. So it doesn't really matter if they catch. And that was actually kind of crucial. I decided to let the Poison Fang go, because if I shield that Poison Fang, the Walrein probably just has to get to double Icicle Spear and they win the game. So actually letting that Poison Fang go was kind of crucial, because that would have been really dang close if I had shielded the Poison Fang in terms of whether I win that game or not. Walrein just would have needed 9 Powder Snows and might have just barely gotten there. Not sure. All right, another Medi into Tapu. Tough lead, but not the worst lead in the world. We saw Medi can definitely hold its own. That Psychic is threatening. And our opponent makes a Savage Catch here. I think on a Sableye, was it? Yeah, Savage Catch. I decided to come and knock this time. I also got the Defense Fell, which is kind of lucky. I thought Sableye might go for a return here. Only a Foul Place. That definitely feels bad. Didn't really need to shield that. Go for the Sky Attack. This way my knock is still super healthy, and I'm hoping they come in with this, where my knock can still put in some work. They actually let it go. And I'm like, okay, I'm already down a shield, so maybe he goes for the Moonblast, and he does. That's really good for me. I CMP tie here, not ideal. But if we get rid of this Tapu, I'm hoping my other 2 Mons are going to have some nice play. They let it go, and it's it's a coffin. Let's go. Diggersby, just an absolute wall. We bank a move on our Noctowl. And even though we don't have Earthquake, as you're going to see, this is just such a good matchup for Diggersby. And honestly, the Dark Pulses are doing like similar damage to these Fire Punches. If you look at that, Dark Pulses aren't doing that much more than the Fire Punches. So just straight Fire Punch. I bet Diggersby probably wins all even shields in this matchup. Just spamming away. Look at Diggersby acting all cool. Going for another Fire Punch here. That's the 3rd Dark Pulse we've tanked. I think. 3rd, right? And 4th one here is going to knock us out, but we still have our healthy, well, somewhat healthy Noctowl. Healthy enough. And I tried to be a little bit, maybe, a little bit show-offy there, going for the Shadow Ball, but our opponent top lefted before it. This is Jay Mills, I believe, and for the haters, I did know his team, because before me, Tho Technical was streaming, and I was watching Tho stream, and he played Jay Mills, so I did have a bit of an advantage here, since I was watching his Tho stream. And I did see what team Jay Mills had. But to be honest, I'm not sure I'd play this any differently, right? Even if I knew, or if I didn't know his team. Like, I probably would have responded to Talon with my Noctowl. And I go for a very aggressive farm down here. That's where knowing your energy counts can really make a big difference. Just going to throw the Shadow Ball, expecting Empoleon. And I am aware that there's a Skarmory in back. Yeah. So we save our Diggersby for the Skarmory. This is a pretty solid matchup for Diggersby, just because we outpace Skarmory so significantly. And these Fire Punches do add up. Probably need about 3 Fire Punches to KO. after all the mud shots add up. Move coming through. I don't feel like Skarmory would debuff itself with Brave Bird here while it's still locked and while it knows I'm going to get to Fire Punches. And I also know it's important I save a shield for my Medicham. And I actually bank the Fire Punch because I was afraid the Empoleon would snipe me with a Waterfall there. I have to shield the Sky Attack. Skarmory should be about dry. In comes Emp. Throw the Psychic before it can reach a Drill Peck. And I think we already have an Ice Punch. But I do one counter. Oh, doing multiple counters. A little bit risky, Rise. A little bit risky. And we take it out with the Ice Punch. Oh, actually, remember, I think my Ice Punch went unresponsive there. I was trying to tap it. I won't bother rewinding it, but you can rewind it if you want. I think I was trying to tap the Ice Punch, and it literally wasn't letting me throw the move. So another 5-0. That takes us to 33-93. As we move on to the next set. Rise just probably talking to chat at this moment in time. Enjoying the little win streak we got going. Yeah, one more shout out, by the way, to, because this probably never happens if Firestar73 doesn't recommend this team to HomeslicHenry, and then if my chat doesn't suggest it to me. So we're here. Oh, this must have been the game against Hot Pocket. I remember he led the Araquanid. Bug Buzz. So I do know Medicham wins this in the Zero Shield, I believe. So I'm willing to play out the Zero Shield here, meaning commit no shields. And then Pocket decides to get a shield. So at least we get shield advantage here. I'm going to come in with my Noctowl. And he swaps in the Coffin. He didn't want to get farmed down, but in doing so, he swapped in something that's really weak to my Noctowl. So this is really good for me. This is where it's important, right, to not like panic and just swap because they swapped. I can totally just stay in here. I can totally stay in here. He's not going to come in with Araquanid, right, against my Noctowl, most likely. So then we'll be able to see what the third Pokemon is and then just go from there. Over farming here quite a bit before he gets to another Dark Pulse. So we have some residual energy for whatever's in back. What is going to greet our owl? It's a Bear Trap. So we swap in Diggersby. He's going to swap in the Araquanid. What I decided to do here is... Oh, man. He's able to get off 2 debuffs before I get off my Fire Punch, which is kind of brutal. Because now look how little this does. Oh, my gosh. Does so little. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to eat another Bubble Beam and put myself into Earthquake range. So I'm going to throw the Fire Punch. This way, I'm not quite in Earthquake range. And I'm just going to overfarm a ton. I will respect the shield because I feel like Diggersby is my win con at this point. I swap Knock. I should be able to live a Rock Slide here as well. I get off my Shadow Ball. And this should put G-Fisk into double Fire Punch range, which I have. So there's really no lose con at this point unless an Earthquake is lethal. Because G-Fisk, even if it farms me down here completely, you can't stack an Earthquake and a Rock Slide, right? Earthquake is 65 energy. Rock Slide is 45 energy. That amounts to 110. So even if he had both loaded here, he can't, or even if he had 100 energy, he can't load them both. And we just go for our Hyper Beam for a little bit of a flex on our friend Hot Pocket. All in fun. Tough team comp for him, right? Like his back line, his Coffin literally had nowhere to go against our back line. So favorable team comp for us. And he still made it super close, right? It came down to my Diggersby surviving with just a few HP. So very well played. Psychic grabs the shield. I'm going to shield. And this is where the high attack Medi... I think that was a kind of weird laugh. This is where the high attack Medi... Well, what even was that? Guys, that was like such a weird giggle. That was like a maniacal little childish giggle. What's gotten into me? I'm supposed to be an adult. But as I was saying, oh, they swap a G-Fisk into my Medi, which is kind of crazy. Kind of wild, bro. It would have been kind of savage if I caught an Earthquake on my Noct, but you don't want to swap your Noct into a G-Fisk. So I'm willing to take double Earthquake here, knowing I can live. I'm just going to throw multiple Fire Punches. I'm thinking my Noct might have a good matchup in the back, considering he came in with G-Fisk. You would think G-Fisk is probably his hardest answer to my Noctowl. And look at that. Diggersby and back. I commit to the Hyper Beam. He makes a really nice catch. And, you know, this is kind of cool. But to be honest, I knew this was a possibility. I knew he might catch the Hyper Beam. But knowing what I have in back and knowing what he has in the Diggersby, I wasn't really too concerned. So I was like, okay, if he catches, he catches. And he does reveal Earthquake there. So now we're in an even more comfortable spot. We don't have to worry about Hyper Beam. 2 Hyper Beams would take out our Noctowl for sure. So Hyper Beam would have been a little scary. We would have at least still had the catch opportunity with our own Diggersby. But yeah, just Fire Punches. These ain't gonna do much, trainer. But this trainer is not giving up. They're not calling it quits. They're fighting until the very end. And you know what? I don't blame them, because we had that Bastiodon situation earlier where we could have called it quits, but we fought and a Wincon appeared. Yeah, I think I'm going to post that as a YouTube short with my live reaction as well. It was pretty funny. Next battle. Here we go. Medi into Diggersby. Lots of Diggersby today. Henry maybe popularized it. Once again, we counter the Medi with our Noctowl. This time they do have Ice Punch. So you see these counters adding up. The next Ice Punch will probably be lethal by the time they get to it. I go for my Sky Attack. I grab a shield. Debating whether I want to shield this or not. And I end up getting pup baited. Brutal. Brutal. Basically a wasted shield there. I know this is just a pup. So I'm okay letting this go. And this is okay for me because I still get my Sky Attack off. Is he willing to go down a shield? He's not. I thought about giving up Switch here to not let him get this massive Mud Shot down, but I figured, you know what? I can get off a Sky Attack. And I'll keep my Medi on the Diggersby. It's probably the safer bet. He already showed his Medi, so probably doesn't have a harder answer to Diggersby, at least hopefully. And I know this Diggersby's in Hyper Beam range as well, so I figure I'll just let this go. And it's a Nidoqueen in back. So this is a little bit scary, right? Because these jabs are adding up to the point where 2 Earth Powers will knock out. I get off my Hyper Beam here. I draw the shield. And I actually decide to let this go because I know it's in Ice Punch range, right? So I actually let it go and I end up calling the Fang. Take it out with Hyper Beam. Trying to get out so the Diggersby doesn't just farm us down. I didn't even think he had enough here for Earthquake, but he did farm the Noctowl down earlier, so I'm like, maybe he does have it. I go for a Psychic here, right? Even though Psychic is neutral as opposed to super effective, it does more raw damage, and it is able to knock out the Diggersby, whereas Ice Punch might have fell just short. So once again, just kind of little things like adding up, just making the right calls, getting a little bit lucky as well. Tough lead here against Mimi, a very good infamous battler from Chile. We safe swap our Diggersby, and this was really tricky. I land the Hyper Beam, and I'm like, you know, maybe I just get triple hard countered here, so maybe I should invest shields to try and fight for switch, but I was like, you know, the Fire Punch doesn't KO anyway, so I'm probably better off not going down shields. Just barely don't get it off, kind of brutal. Blastoise is going to get off a move here. And now I'm just hoping, like, okay, hopefully Noctowl is going to be a core breaker here. And he stays in with the Sableye. And that lets you know that probably doesn't have a strong answer to Noctowl in back. And it was actually a Power Gem, a rare Power Gem you don't typically see from Sableye. We're going for a Sky Attack. We grab a shield. So he's shielding his Sableye. Whatever's in back, don't want to see Noctowl either. We land the Sky Attack. I'm like, you know, if it's a Power Gem, I'm not sure if something in back will do more than a Power Gem. He ends up baiting me with Foul Play and swaps into Beedrill. And unless this Beedrill is crazy running Sludge Bomb, we should have this one. And we CMP tie here. I know I live anything from Beedrill here other than a Sludge Bomb, but they typically don't carry it. And the Drill Run, double resisted. Sky Attack will certainly KO after all the Wing Attack damage. And Noctowl with a sweep in back, basically taking down 2 full Pokemon in the 2 shield. Now we're up against Jason, who is always towards the top of the leaderboards. A weird lead for us, right? We do have Ice Punch, so we can fight back here against Altaria. But whenever I see Jason, I'm worried that he's running Bastiodon, and I'm like, crap, how am I going to handle a Bastiodon in the back? So I'm actually thinking about swapping out, but he swaps out into Shadow Victory Bell, which allows me to line this up. And now I'm thinking, okay, he swapped in Shadow Victory Bell. Maybe it's not a Bastiodon. But because yeah, if it was a Bastiodon, he would have come in with it there, right? He would have farmed down my Noctowl. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's double Razor Leaf. And we're going for a Sky Attack here. I'm like, if it's double Razor Leaf, maybe I shield this to try and force the last shield, and then my Psychic can KO the Razor Leafer, because I do have a little bit of energy on Medi. So he gets a full farm down, and I'm like, okay, I come in with Diggersby here. Swap, I've got energy. Just going to commit to the Psychic here, knowing I get to it. And this will take out Mr. Weeping Bell. Altaria does get the farm down, but we know Diggersby is so tanky. Should be able to live 2 Sky Attacks here. And the Altaria is so low, it's within Fire Punch range. So able to take that one. You know, if well, actually no, I take it back. If Jason had stayed in and just won lead, then Nock probably would have put in even more work. So Nock in the back, just tough for his team in general. And another 5-0, guys. Another 5-0 gets us to 34-66. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. We're playing Alan here, a young trainer who won the Road to Worlds tournament, a tournament of all the second place finishers, the runners up from the different Play Pokemon regionals, to try and allow someone to get their finances paid for. He makes a really nice catch here on his Marowak to catch the Psychic. It's still going to chunk, though. I decided to come in with my Diggersby. Gonna go for a Fire Punch here, since we don't have EQ. And you know what's funny? I didn't even think about shielding here. It didn't even cross my mind. Bang! Fire Blast. Does huge damage from a Shadow Whack. I was expecting Swampert to come in for a Mudshot down. So I Fire Punch bait, and they come in with Mandibuzz. So Alan just completely outplaying me right now. Just completely outplaying me here. Made the catch, landed the big move. But we're still not, we're not out of it yet, because our Noctowl is pretty solid here. Gonna be able to tank this energy from Mandibuzz pretty comfortably, so I'm figuring I need to try and save my shields, because there isn't a whole lot of fast move pressure for Noctowl. The Air Slashes aren't doing that much. In comes Swamp, and at this point I'm like, okay, I can double shield here, double shield the Swampert, farm down, and hopefully get off double Ice Punch against the Mandibuzz. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not sure it's going to happen, because I don't know if after these Mud Shots I'm going to be able to live the Air Slashes. So I do one counter for proper timing. I get it off. I don't know if I'm going to get off this second Ice Punch. This mechanic doesn't always work for me. But I actually live the Air Slash with minimal HP. Like 1 HP, live it. And now we just need to get to a Sky Attack. Noctowl will certainly be able to tank a Foul Play from here. And we just throw it immediately. I had kind of lost track of his energy at this point. So that was a game where Alan, I felt like Alan outplayed me. But we did have a very solid team comp against his. The Marowak didn't have a ton of play. And we're able to get the win. Going up against Mr. Dilap. You know, it's funny, Alan and Dilap played each other in the Road to Worlds finals, and we play them back-to-back here in GBL. So some steep competition here in the high 3,400 ELO range. He's going to land the Hydro here with Swampert. I'm going to go for a Psychic. And this game actually had a pretty exciting finish, if I do say so myself. He's going to go for a Hydro here. I know I have the Ice Punch loaded, so I'm going to shield to get it off, and he makes a terrific catch onto a Lickitung. I am going to greet the Lickitung with Noctowl, and the reason for this is because I was predicting Skarmory in back. Swampert, Skarmory, Core. Like, I don't know for certain if it's Skarmory, but that's what I was guessing, that it was probably Skarmory in back, so that's why I decided to come in with Noctowl here, because Diggersby has a better matchup against Skarmory than Noctowl would. Going for another Sky Attack. Take it out. And the Swampert is forced to throw pretty much right away, I believe. I think it was maybe only like one extra Mud Shot there, past the Hydro Cannon. And in comes Ninetales, and this is tough. This is tough. So we end up doing something pretty wild here. He still has a shield in play. We take the Weather Ball, and Dilap knows he can comfortably take a Fire Punch, so we actually go for the Hyper Beam. The Hail Mary, bang! Hyper Beam does a ton of damage, allows us to farm down. And now Fire Punch coming through. And at this point, I was wondering if I messed up. And I should have just committed to fast move damage, because I don't get to the second Fire Punch. But we are able to farm down the Swampert before it gets to 2 moves. And get a pretty crazy win there over Dilap, who's easily one of the best battlers in the world. Skarmory lead. Good matchup for Medi. Or, I guess, matchup for Medi. Medi's just such a beast. I could, like, my gut reaction is like, it's a pretty good matchup for Medi, because I can just commit shields on these Sky Attacks, and my counters are going to add up just about as much as the Air Slashes, and my I'm going to get off these moves quicker. So Skarmory's going to have to shield this if they want to get off their next move. They do decide to shield. I was thinking about whether I want to shield, but I thought it'd be kind of hard to farm this down. So I decided to actually go down a shield. This way I can take switch advantage and maybe get my shield back, depending on what comes in. In comes Hypno. I bank my Psychic, knowing that this energy won't be very useful against Hypno. So Noctowl gonna have to eat the Thunder Punch. I throw the Shadow Ball just before he reaches his next Thunder Punch. And it gets shielded. This next Thunder Punch should take me out. But this damage was useful still, because this puts it about into Hyper Beam range. This puts Hypno about into Hyper Beam range. And in comes Obstagoon. And I think the Obstagoon makes a slight error here, by throwing its energy right away. Because now it's not going to be able to have a move against my Medicham that's going to swap in here. I land the Hyper Beam, go straight for the Ice Punch, bang, bye-bye, Obstagoon, and I get off an Ice Punch here for chip damage, which will definitely put Hypno within Hyper Beam range. And now we just have to hope they don't have Focus Blast, or Ice Punch would be pretty close as well. What are they going to throw? Shadow Ball. And the Hypno with the standard Thunder Punch Shadow Ball moveset is going to be walled by Digmeister and take a Hyper Beam to the face, which would end up being our final win of the 16-game winning streak. We would fall in our next game. I think we faced like a DD lead with a Swampert in back, and I ended up getting kind of countered. I remember if I had just stayed in and soft lost Medi versus DD, my backline actually would have done pretty well, but I swapped, and giving up switch right away was a big mistake. So even our game after that for the 20th win in a row was winnable. And if you look at there's Firestar, who, shout out to him, his Twitter, who suggested the team originally to Henry. If you look at my highest winning streak of all time, it's 24. Highest win streak of this season, 19, and that is from just yesterday with this crazy squad. And I mean, it's just GBL, right? It's just GBL. But it's a cool thing, right? Like, you don't get these winning streaks this often. These don't grow on trees, as they say. So I think it's important to appreciate it, and I try to be like humble about it, but it's a pretty cool moment, and I'm glad I get to share these things with you guys that support me when I'm proud of like an achievement or a winning streak. So I thank you guys so much for watching. One more shout out to Firestar and HomeslicHenry, and if you guys enjoyed this video, I would very much appreciate a like. If you want to stick around for more content, feel free to subscribe and comment down below. All comments help us out. They help promote the videos on the YouTube algorithm, as so I'm told. So all comments, positive or negative, you're like, Rise, that's a cool Gengar shirt. Rise, what the heck were you thinking in that one game you almost threw? Rise, I stuck around to the very end, and you're rambling too long, so we should wrap it up. That's a good idea, Chad. Okay. All that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I joke around, but I do appreciate y'all, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.